Hello fellow guitar geeks, my name's Andy and welcome to my guide on how to get the most out of your ID Core V3 amp from Blackstar. In this first video in the series, I'm going to go over Architect, which is Blackstar's editing software for PC and Mac. I'll be using Mac today, but it's pretty much the same for PC once you've downloaded the Architect software. Speaking of which, step 1, go to the Blackstar website and find the ID Core V3 page. Then scroll all the way down until you get to the Architect software. And then I would really recommend you download the Architect Handbook. That's good for reference. But then you've got either download for PC or download for Mac. I've already downloaded the software, but you'd click that and you'd install that like you would any other software on your computer. Once you've installed it and you start the Architect software, you should be presented with a screen that looks like this. Now, the first thing you want to do is plug your USB cable into the computer, then the other end into your amp. Then when it's plugged in, you can turn the amp on, give it a few seconds, and you'll be presented with Architect. Now, the first time you plug this in, the first time you start it up, you will probably have to update the firmware and maybe even the app itself. So go through that. There's on-screen explanations of how to do that. It's very simple and just follow the on-screen stuff. When you've done that and you're fully up to date, then we can move on with what the Architect software does. When you first start the software, you may be presented with this screen or this screen, and the way you switch between those two is by clicking either the microphone or the list just here. I'm going to stay on this screen for a moment and split that up into 3 sections: the amp panel, the effects, and Rig Lite. And first up is the amp panel. This looks very much like the amp panel on top of the amp with a few extra knobs. So here are the 6 voices which you can click through or click the different names and have anything you want by clicking, or you can also adjust them by using the amp just there. It goes the same with all the other knobs. I'm not going to go through the sounds of the different voices because I've done that in my review and demo of the amp, but I will run through what these different knobs do and how they affect the sound. Let's move from left to right. I have the amp on a crunch channel and it sounds like this. Then if I bring the gain down, you're going to get a cleaner sort of sound. And then more gain is going to give us a more overdriven, a more distorted sound. It also compresses a little bit more, so let's take that back down to about halfway. Volume is going to make the amp louder, so it's right next to my ear, that's why I've got it down at this level. And then we've got bass, middle, and treble. This 3-band EQ is not available on the amp itself, it's just available in Architect, which is a great reason to install the software on its own, because you can really tweak the sounds of your patches. Bass is that low feeling, mids is where your guitar can jump through, it can sound a bit too nasally if you push them too much, and treble is the real sort of the real high frequencies, the pizzazz of the guitar tone. Then we've got ISF, which is the same as the ISF on the amp just there. So if I switch it, where is it? If I switch it on the amp, it also affects what's going on screen. It's not motorized, so it doesn't work the other way. But ISF means that we've got a more American sound here and a more British sound over here, or you can mix between the two. I think one of the MVPs of this software is resonance, because that can make your amp sound either too flubby or too thin. So I'll demonstrate what those sounds sound like. This is with 0 resonance. Resonance all the way up. It's adding fullness and a more lower, warmer frequency. So here, the amp sounds quite thin and quite small. As you bring up that resonance, the amp sounds bigger, actually bigger than it really is, especially with the volume turned up, which I'm not going to do right now. Presence is how present your amp is, and what it means is that you can bring forward your amp in a busy mix. So bringing that presence all the way down. Too much presence and it can sound harsh, but if you're finding yourself playing with other people or playing with a backing track and your guitar's not coming through, have a play with the presence knob. That'll sort you. The most fun thing about Architect is you have these little dice everywhere, and if you click this on the amp panel section, it randomizes all the settings. So this is very useful if you don't know what all these things do, because you can just click it and come up with a new sound instantly. So we can go from clean bright to OD2. with one click without having to tweak anything. That's really fun. So that's the amp panel. Let's move on now to the effects section. If you own or have seen effects pedals before, then the effects section of the Architect software should look pretty familiar. I think Blackstar have done a wonderful job, by the way, of designing the look of Architect. It's really, really simple, but really, really powerful. I love the minimalistic look of it. So we've got first in the signal chain. It goes left to right, by the way, rather than a pedal board, which would go right to left. We've got tuner up first, which is, unbelievably, a tuner. Oh, bring the guitar up. So you can tune the guitar. It's a fairly good tuner. I've got a clip-on tuner on my headstock as well, and they tend to pretty much agree with each other. So there we go, that's the tuner. It also mutes the sound, by the way, and it shows you the lights on the amp at the same time if you switch it on here. And if you switch it on the amp, it will show it on the screen as well. There we go, pretty cool. The noise gate could be the savior for those of you who like high gain settings, because if we turn it off by clicking the foot switch and then go to a high gain voice, boost that gain, oh, turn it off. Very hissy, very hissy. Turning it on will cut that. And what that's doing is it's muting the output of the amp when it's not getting enough signal from the guitar, and you can adjust that signal with the sensitivity and the amount. The ID Core has 4 modulation effects: phaser, chorus, flanger, envelope, and tremolo. So I'll quickly run through what they all sound like. Let's go down to a crunch because I don't want too high gain. I want to hear what this phaser sounds like. Turning it on and playing. That's the phaser. It's a pretty normal sounding phaser. Chorus flanger is also a similar kind of effect, but it sounds slightly detuned. So let's bring that depth up and bring the speed down. We're going to get a warbly sound. Thank you. And then taking it onto envelope is Funk City. That is, it's a wah pedal basically that reacts to how hard you pick. That's really fun. I really like that. And then the tremolo adjusts the volume of the signal, so it sounds like it's like you're getting the volume knob and turning it up and down, like this. You can also turn harmonic mode on and off. Sounds slightly different. So now it's like a slicer. Alrighty then, that's the modulation. On to the delays. We've got 4 different delays. We've got linear, analog, tape, and multi. Linear is very much a digital delay, and it recreates every repeat perfectly. So there's no effect to that, which is linear. Whoops, let's turn the tremolo off, and then turn the delay on. Then analog is similar, but because it's modeling an analog pedal, the repeats will get darker. Bringing up the feedback will increase how many times it delays. And you can get pretty freaky with that setting. And then finally, tape. We've got tape similar to analog, but it adds a kind of warbly sound as if the tape is moving slightly. Yeah, so it sounds somewhere to me in between the digital and the analog there. I'm not sure if that's what they're going for, but that's what it sounds like to me. Then multi is like a sort of ping-pong stereo delay. Then over to the reverbs. We've got 4 different reverbs: room, hall, spring, and plate. Putting onto room gives us, let's turn the delay off. Putting onto the room gives us a sort of small room sound, as if the amp were in a small room. So it's quite small. We can bring that room up to be a bigger room. Or we can change it to hall, which is a hall. Let's start off about there, which is a big room. Let's bring up their size. almost cavernous at the top. And then the level will bring up the mix of the reverb compared to the original signals. So if we pick it all the way up, then we've got the spring, which emulates the spring reverb in an amp or a reverb tank. And this sounds quite not drippy, but it sounds quite good. I like the level up quite high for this. Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. And then we've got a plate, which is more of a studio kind of reverb. So it sounds like this. Wow. Okay. Finally, on the effects section, we've got the dice, which you can totally randomize to your heart's content to bring up something like this. In fact, we haven't turned that chorus flanger on. Yeah, so you can randomize, and if you don't know what these effects do, or you just fancy having a play around and you're not feeling very creative, smash that button and the amp software will do it for you. One thing that is on the amp that is not currently on the pedals is the tap tempo, and you can enable that by going to the settings, which is this cogwheel up here, and show tap FX tap buttons. Then you can tap in your tempo, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's your BPM. You can do the same with the chorus flanger. Get them in kind of in sequence. There, I forgot to enable that earlier, so that's how you do it. But we'll go into the settings a little bit later, but very quickly on the effects section, that's how you get the taps on there. Let's move on to Rig Lite. Rig Lite is the speaker cab simulation setting for the Architect and the ID Core V3 series. The fact that it's called Rig Lite leads me to believe there'll be a Rig Pro or a Rig full version with more tweakability. However, the Rig Lite is perfectly powerful enough for this amp, and it enables you to change the tone very, very simply. The first thing you can do, if you don't know what different cabs do, is click the old randomize button, and it'll take you through all these different types of cabs and different mics. So the cabs are from a 110 combo all the way through to an oversized 4x12. You've got 3 mics, which is dynamic, condenser, and ribbon. You can say whether it's on axis or off axis, so it's straight on the speaker or slightly off at an angle. You can adjust the low and high frequencies of this cab simulation to give you more lows or more highs. And then the absolute MVP of this section, which is possibly the most boring, most powerful section of Architect, is this level fader. Because when you are using this amp for live streaming, which is in another video, or you're using it for recording, or just playing into a computer somehow, it doesn't matter what you do with the volume on the amp or on one of these volume level knobs just here. The level going into the computer or into your live stream phone is controlled by this fader here. So you can have a really super loud amp, but you're not going to blow the inputs of the computer. So you can bring it right down if you're playing something super quiet, or take it up if you need a little boost. But I find that around there, around sort of 2/3, and you've got enough guitar going into the computer, and once again you can turn it up as loud or as quiet as you want, and it doesn't affect the volume that's going into the computer, which is great for monitoring. I could go super in-depth with Rig Lite, but to keep it super simple, because it really is, you just need to play with it. If you want a bigger, maybe fuller, more rock sound, you should try one of these 4x12s. If you want something that's a little smaller, some sort of tweedy blues, then you can get 1x10. You can stick it on the clean bright or warm. Let's go warm, and then gain about there. Let's see if we can find something that is a little tweedy. Yeah, there we go. And then cab resonance. Let's see what that sounds like. I'll stick a bit of tremolo on it as well. Bit of depth and the crossover frequency. Pretty cool. I actually really like that sound, and that's the sound I'm going to use to show you how to save a patch or preset. You get to your presets by going to this list icon up here, so you can switch that small part of the window between the Cab Rig Lite and your patches by doing that. Then you have got all 6 patches. The ID Core V3 fits 6 patches, 1 per voice. So you can have one clean bright, 1 crunch, blah, 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 up to 6. What you can also do is save them to your computer and upload them to the sharing community. So I've got my sound that I like. I'm going to save it by clicking the floppy disk up there, and then you've got 3 options. Save the patch to the amp, save manual mode settings, or save local patch. If you save it to patch, it'll tell you where you can save it. You cannot change the slot because you've already selected the clean warm amp, so this has to be saved in slot 1, which is clean warm amp. You can change the name, of course. I'm going to cancel that so it doesn't copy over my patch. You can save to manual mode settings, meaning that when you save manual mode, whatever you leave on the amp is how it sounds when you turn it back on again. So it's not a patch, it's an extra kind of manual mode. I'm not too clear on that one, if I'm honest. I would just stick to the patches and your local save patch. So we're going to save it locally. I'm going to call it Trem Tweed. Very original. There's me, the creator. Genre. You can set all these different genres. We're going to call it, blues. Subgenre, death metal. It's blues death metal. So, and then we'll put some search terms in there so you can find this, because I'm going to put this on the community in a moment as well. Then I'm going to save it. If you're wondering where it saved that patch to, it's here in local patches, which you can bring up by clicking that arrow. And then Trem Tweed, there it is. So there's another one I did a little bit earlier. That's already on the community if you want to find that one. That's a classic patch. Trem Tweed. Also on a Mac, it's saved in your Documents folder within a Blackstar. So it's Mac, Documents, Blackstar, and then there's the patches and the backups. Let's say that you wanted to load this patch to the amp. You can either double click it, like so, and that gives you my wonderful other patch. To double click the Trem Tweed, we'll load the Trem Tweed again. And let's say you want to find more information, you just right-click it, or can control-click on a Mac. With the right-click thing on a Mac. On a computer that's running Windows, you just do a right-click. So that's how you deal with patches on the amp and saving them. You can only have 6 on the amp at any one time, and 1 per voice. However, you can have pretty much as many as you want saved on your computer. One final thing to do is look at community. This is things that I've downloaded from the community. To get to the community, you click the Earth icon there. This is the Architect community, and you've got loads of stuff that people have uploaded. In fact, there's my patch there that I uploaded yesterday, and 36 people have already downloaded it. That's really funny. Then we've got official artist patches, and I'm quite proud of people having downloaded that. But you can download them anywhere you want. So let's go for Still Got the Blues. No, let's find something that's V3, because there's not many V3 patches. Let's try that one. Details. Best sound for Back in Black. Oh, I've already got that one. Hang on. Let's go for Vultures then. Something that's V3. That might work. Let's try it. So it's been saved on not a V3 amp. So we're going to download the patch. Do you want to load this patch in the amp? No. Then I'm going to go out of the community, and there it is there. So now I'm going to load that patch to the amp. It's going to tell me that it's not created for ID Core V3. It's created with a different amp, but we can check it out anyway, see what it sounds like. That's a fun patch. Okay, let's go back to the community, because now I'm going to show you how to upload a patch. So go to Upload a Patch, unbelievably. Find that file. So mine's in Documents, Documents, Blackstar, Saved Patches, Trem Tweed. Open. Then I'm going to go to Upload Patch. And again, there we go. Successful upload, returning you to the main overview page. Now, there it is, Trem Tweed. It was that simple. So all you have to do, still laughing at the death metal, all you have to do is go to the community and you can download that patch that I've just made in this video. You're welcome. Get out of the community by pressing the X button. And then the final thing to talk about is the settings, which is this cogwheel just up here. Settings is also information about Architect. You can get more info by clicking here. It says that it's up to date and there's no new version. That's cool. The amp is telling me what amp I'm using, the range, and the version of the amp. It's also telling me that I've got the latest firmware, so that's very useful. However, to update the firmware, normally you just plug the amp in and it does it automatically. Now we've got some settings, so we can turn it into super wide stereo mode, which is fantastic, or you can put it into mono mode, which is less fantastic. So you can have it in mono mode. I don't know why you would. Maybe you don't like stereo. Maybe you only got one ear. Okay, so reamping mode is something I will do in a separate video. So there's another video in this series because reamping mode is something a little bit more complicated that I don't want to go to in this video, but I will bring it out in that other video. So that's on the channel somewhere or in a playlist. Then speaker mute mutes the speaker. So be careful with this button because if you mute it, it will still record. So I can record to my software. So you'll still be able to hear that, but if I keep the mic on while I do this, it doesn't do anything because it's muted the speaker. So that's an easy way to break your amp. I won't go into the foot controller in this video because I've already made a foot controller video and accessories thing for that. You can find that on the channel. There'll also be a link in the video description. Down here are showing knob values. So when you move this thing, you can have the values off or on. So you can have those numbers. I just leave it on, it's quite useful. Then show the FX tap button, which I went into earlier on. Then you can hide those randomized buttons in case you're working on a patch and you don't want to be tempted to roll the dice. Down here you can send feedback. So if you have a problem with the amp or a technical problem, then you can just recommend that they do a fix. I did that already because it says foot controller mo there, not mode. So I've already sent that to Blackstar. I'm sure they'll fix that soon. That is my guide on how to use the new Architect software from Blackstar with your ID Core V3 amp. If I've missed anything or if you have any questions, then don't hesitate to leave a comment down below this video in the comment section. While you're down there, give a thumbs up. That'll be helpful and useful. And if you really like the content and you want more, you can always subscribe to the channel and I'll be back with more Blackstar and more other content very, very shortly. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.